Awesome. Well, Gabrielle, I am so excited to have this conversation with you today. I know that I found you on Instagram and I was like, oh, this is somebody I want to have a conversation with. And then I found out, like, I did more of a deep dive and we had a conversation with what you do. And I think I told you I've never really met somebody that specializes exactly in what you specialize in. And that's helping female entrepreneurs, coaches really find their niche and sell authenticity.
Yeah.
And I just find that super fascinating because as a brand and social media coach, one of the very first things that I ask anybody is who are you selling to and what's your niche and what is it that you do? And a lot of people are stuck here. A
Mhm.
lot of people are stuck here. So you found a need and you're like, this is
Yep.
something I can do. This is something I can serve. And you stepped into it. And I'm just excited to have this conversation with you today. So thank you for taking the time to sit down with me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. I cannot wait to walk through all of what you just mentioned and really help your people out today. I'm so excited.
Awesome. I'm super pumped. So before we get into, what is niche? What does this look like for an entrepreneur? Why is it important, especially now showing up on social media where we serve in just a different capacity than what we're, maybe conditioned 2 years ago. Before we get into all of that goodness, tell me a little bit about you, how you
Mm.
got started, what kind of really led you to serving in this capacity?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I'll definitely walk you guys through my story because I want you to feel related to. And odds are, I hope that you do, because my journey was not linear, has not been, and it was certainly messy. So if you are navigating any of that messy right now, you are in the right spot for sure. So my name's Gabrielle. I am a niche expert and a sales coach, and I help women find their niches and then sell in a way that really feels good to them so that they actually do it. Now, how did I get to this point? I knew my entire life that I was meant to be an entrepreneur. And because of that, I struggled massively throughout traditional education, right? I was in the public school system up until 12th grade and then went to college. I struggled massively. Not a good test taker by any stretch of the imagination. If you told me to take a test on like something in my business, I would probably fail it simply because it's a test.
So the same way.
Right? Just simply because it's test. And I really felt like an outcast because I grew up, in the early 90s, early 2000s. And as I was going through school, there weren't many people who, and especially women, who ran their own businesses, right? And I just knew it's like, I remember being in like third and fourth grade and people asking me, what do you want to be when you're older? And I'd always say, I want to run my own business. But then people would be like, oh, no, success comes from the corporate ladder. So I used to tell people that I wanted to be a dentist. I freaking hate the dentist. I hate anything medically. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I want to be a dentist because people said, that's where success comes from. And I just knew that I wanted to be successful. So, I was going through the school system, failing, getting awful grades, not really knowing anyone who wanted to do what I wanted to do, and feeling like an outsider. So my confidence was really shot. I had teachers tell me I'd waste my time going to school, parents disappointed in my grades. And I just always had this intuitive pull that like one day, like this will all just make sense. So I got into college by the skin of my teeth, quite literally. And I started to just let go of my dream. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not meant to run my own business because I couldn't figure out what my business would be. In high school, I kept telling my parents, like, I don't want to go to college. I want to run my own business. Well, what business do you want to run? I have no idea. I'd look into niches and everyone's like, well, just what are your skills? I don't know. I just went through a whole public school system that totally stomped on my confidence, made me feel like I don't have any type of skill. So how the heck am I supposed to know? So then I went through college 5 years and I ended up getting a job. And I got a job at a magazine. I was making $30,000 a year, living in one of the most expensive cities, which is Boston, which I love so much. Not the amount of money I made, of course, but I remember sitting there and I just felt like everyone would walk right past me and not say hi. Like I was just a low man on the totem pole. Just everyone was barking orders at me. And the second I sat my butt in that chair on my first day, I said, there is no way I'm doing this. There's no way I'm doing this for the rest of my life. I have to get out of this. So I was a receptionist for a few more months, and then I segued into sales because again, I couldn't figure out my niche. I was struggling with the confidence. I didn't know what I brought to the table. So I just kept trying to ignore my dream and figure it out. So I started doing advertising sales for a couple of years. And then my boyfriend, now fiance, and I moved to New York, and I got a job doing tech sales. And I was commuting 5 hours a day at that point to my tech sales job. And I said, I'm not doing this for the rest of my life, just like I did when I was a receptionist. And I said, now I'm figuring it out. Screw this confidence. I'm bringing it back. I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a purpose. I'm figuring it out. And I did that for 2 years. And then we ended up moving to New Mexico, actually. And I worked remotely, and I just begged the universe for a fresh start. I said, please, please, anything. I can't do this. I am so miserable. I gained weight. I had terrible anxiety, everything. And a few months after that, I was laid off from my job. And I said, this is it. And I remember I sobbed like crazy that morning. And I had these feelings of being rejected and feeling less than. And then I remember that afternoon, I perked right up and I said, let's go. And I started my business a week later. Now, I did not make money for 6 months in the first 6 months of my business because I had no clue what my niche was. I wanted to inspire. I wanted to help women, but that's all I did because I didn't know what tangible deliverable I had to bring to the table. And it was through a lot of healing and a lot of getting to know myself, investing in my business a lot, asking for help, that I realized that it all came full circle. It's my job on this planet to help women figure out what they bring to the table, AKA help them find their niche. Because I struggled with it for 26 years. I started my business at 26, and I was in diapers knowing I wanted to run my own business. And so now I help women own who they are, look back on their story, figure out what their niche is based off their story. No more sitting down and saying, what are your skills? You probably don't know your skills because they're sitting right there. You're too close to them. You likely need to do some healing, like every single one of us did to get where we are, to really uncover those. But where your skills lie are in your story. And that's where we find your niche. And then I help people sell, specifically coaches for the most part, sell in a way that just feels good to them and really honor who they are and bring out their best self in their business. And it's been a wild ride getting here, but like that's where we're at. And it's been a very, very beautiful journey.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. While you were talking, I recently interviewed, do you know who 𝘁𝗸𝗃 is?
I don't know. I'll have to look her up though. I'm going to make a note.
Yeah, look her up because she's an author. She's a best-selling author. She wrote the book Stories That Stick. And she's just now launching another book called Choose Your Story, Change Your Life. Oh. And when I think of you, I also think of her and her books, because I think that like what she talks about in her books is exactly what you help women do. It's
That's
exactly
beautiful.
because it's all about storytelling. And, she doesn't do what you do. You're more of the coach. She more talks about the power of identifying yourself with your stories and not trying to like put them in the shadow or like kind of conceal them, which we've all been conditioned to do. But it's really like stepping into them, owning them, because once you own them, you find out who you are. And there's that authentic you that comes through, and it helps you really like find that passion and pursue that passion and ultimately step into really what you're intended to do. So I love that you went through those waves, but we all have to go through them, right?
Yes,
like we all have to go through those waves of life to really identify who we are in the process, So I love that. I love that. So I said at the very beginning that this is one of the biggest things that women, well, all people, but the fact that both of us work with women predominantly, they really struggle with is it's like, what is my niche? What is a niche? Who is it do I serve? Because I don't want to shy away from serving people that could potentially need my help. But at the same time, when we're too broad, we end up not really generating an income. We end up not really connecting with, who it is that we really need to connect with. So let's dive into this. Let's start with like, what is a niche and why is it important for a woman that's really kind of stepping into business and developing her own brand?
Oh, I love that question so much. And so I always say this, a niche is something you feel like you have to do, right? Like you're on Instagram and you see like this coach, he just had a 6-figure launch, and you could also be a business coach. She's a business coach and you kind of like business. So you do that. But an aligned niche, and what I teach people to do is figure out their aligned niche, because I fully believe that every single one of us, when we're operating in alignment, the doors open, right? Whether it's with God, the universe, whatever you believe in, the doors open when you operate in alignment. So having an aligned niche is owning who you are specifically, what you bring to the table. And we do that through looking at the transformational experiences that you've been through in your life. Because how can you have a business if you have no idea what your business is? And I can't tell you the amount of women that I've met who, they've done well for themselves, right? But they're like, I don't even really know what my business is. I don't really know what I'm teaching, and I'm not aligned with it. So your aligned niche is the foundation of your business. And so often, and especially for new entrepreneurs, but this is super relevant for existing entrepreneurs too, who are ready to pivot or expand in their business, right? You go through coaching programs and there's just not enough emphasis on niche. For instance, I couldn't figure out mine forever because there was no one out there who specialized in that to be like, hey, let's sit down and uncover what you bring to the table. So I would say your niche and your aligned niche specifically, because I want all of you to really find that alignment in your business and in your life. This goes hand in hand. So if the doors open for you, it's what your business is. It's what impact you're making uniquely. Only you can uniquely make this impact. Yes, we can all be business coaches. I'm technically a business coach, but uniquely, I focus on niches, right? And so that's what I lead with. And I say this with absolutely everyone. And I don't promise much, but I promise this: you bring something to the table. You have something unique about you that you bring to the table that you can make an impact with. It does not have to be a rags to riches story. Mine wasn't. I just hated my job. I hated my life. I wanted something new and different. It does not have to be a rags to riches story, but you have impact sitting inside of you. And it's time to bring that out.
So I love this because these things are two separate things, yet they go hand in hand together. And that is niche and your ideal customer avatar, that person that you want to serve. Do you think that having aligned niche ultimately determines the person that you're serving?
Oh, that's such a good question, because what I almost always say, and every single one of my clients I treat as a unique individual. This is no cookie cutter business. I don't believe in cookie cutter business advice. But if you are struggling to pinpoint your ICA, make it a past version of you, right? So when you're finding that alignment in your
story, good. I'm sorry. That's so good. I have to jump in here. I'm fangirling over here. I'm yes.
We make it harder than it needs to be, right? All these demographics, their eye color, their weight, all of this. I do not give a hoot about any of that. What I care about is how aligned do you feel to that person, right? When you are a past version of your dream customer, obviously you do not understand absolutely everything down to a T, but you understand a vast majority of what they're experiencing. Of course, they have their own experiences, you have your own, but about 8 out of 10, you can hit that on the dot simply from your experience. Because a lot of people, when they pivot, expand, or when they're just finding their niche and starting out, they don't always have the authority markers to immediately build that trust. So you want to focus on trust through relatability, right? Through your own experience, because that's an authority marker in itself. An authority marker is something big when you start chatting through sales and really building that foundation. But the authority there is really big. And the best way to get that is through your story and the result that you've gotten yourself. So if you are struggling with your ICA, think back to a past version of yourself when you were struggling. Who did you need then? And now become that mentor that you needed back then.
Oh, I love this. Now, I have another question, because I'm sitting here thinking of my story, even though we're sharing that on your podcast.
I can't wait.
But it makes me think, because there's so many people, and I was one of these people that when I started in business 14 plus years ago, I don't like to put that 14 plus, but many years ago, I thought I wanted to do something, right? I thought I knew my niche. I thought I identified with this certain, person of who I wanted to serve and ultimately what I wanted to do. But 8 years of being successfully unsuccessful, I realized that I was aligning myself with a niche that I necessarily didn't really connect with. I didn't fully align with. So what do you say to somebody that maybe might have thought they niched down and they're at this place where they're like, I just feel a huge disconnect. How do I pivot?
I love that. And I want to take this back one step. Whereas if you're listening to this and you're saying, well, I don't know if I'm in alignment or not, here's how I can tell. Whenever I ask somebody, what is your niche? If you tell me like this, yeah, I help people with sales and like, I also help them on the business end, immediately I can tell you're out of alignment based off your energy. But if you tell me I'm a niche expert, I'm a sales coach, I help people sell in a way that feels good to them, like your energy's there. So just like, if you're kind of wondering, like, am I out of alignment? Like, just ask yourself that, like, what is your niche? And do you say it with conviction or not? So that's really telling there. But in terms of when you're ready to pivot and what that looks like, so there's two things here, right? There's pivoting and then there's expanding. And people use the words interchangeably, but I don't think that they should be used interchangeably, because when you pivot, that's when you go from like being a fitness coach all of a sudden to now, like you're an artist, right? Like you're doing like a 360-degree pivot, where a lot of times people are actually just expanding their offerings. Maybe they're a coach now and they're expanding to adding an agency, division to their business or their company. And they expand who they're talking to a bit. So maybe at the time they only spoke to new coaches, but now they're talking to coaches across the board. So that's more of an expansion. So a lot of people panic when they get into like, do I need to pivot? What am I doing? Do I want it? Just know that you may not be pivoting, you may be expanding. And I see that really kind of like relaxes the nerves a lot. But all in all, and to your point that you just talked about, you always want to operate in alignment. And there's going to be times when your business feels out of alignment a little bit, and that's okay. I usually find that you start feeling those icky feelings a little bit before a big level up. But if you are really, truly struggling to sit down and focus, to sit down and write content, you're not lit up about who you're talking to anymore. You're kind of dreading your client calls. It's time to look at that.
That's so powerful, because a lot of times we force ourselves in these situations because of family expectations, expectations of society, the own expectations that we set on ourselves. And ultimately, like, we end up just not being happy. And when you're not happy, you're not aligned. And oh my gosh, I think we've all been there at some point or another. And like you just said, like, you were not happy. You thought you might have been happy in this industry that you ultimately wanted to pursue and be this person that you ultimately wanted to be. And come to find out, it just wasn't filling your cup. Like, it was just not lighting that fire within you. I love that. So what would you say, other than, going back to our, like, how do we do this? How do we find our niche? So you said, going back to our past version of ourselves, is there like a step-by-step process or something that you can give us that would give us an idea of like, where do we start?
Absolutely. That's such a great question.
Do we ask ourselves?
Yes. So the first thing that I want you to do, and I want to preface this by saying, like, it can be tricky doing it on your own. So just release the expectations in your mind, and literally in your brain, think of it like a bar, right? And there's a bouncer at the front door. Make sure that bouncer is getting rid of all judgment. Any judgment that tries to walk into that bar, the bouncer is kicking right out. No, don't do that. That's so stupid. Don't be doing that. Just bounce it right out. So really go into this in a judgment-free zone. And I want you to sit down and pretend that I'm sitting across from the table from you. And I say, Whitney, what is your story? And I want you to write out that story. I'm personally a pen and paper kind of gal, but if you prefer to type it out. I want you to start wherever feels natural and end wherever feels natural. There's no right or wrong. Write out your story. And then once you're done, go for a walk. Go check the mail. Go to the park with your dog, go do what you got to do, go ride in the car and blast rap music. That's my favorite thing in the world to do when I need a second. Like, go do what you need to do, but just step away. Once you've taken a breather, come back and look at that story. And then I want you to focus on transformational experiences. So use a highlighter, whether it's on your computer or, the pen version, and highlight the transformational experiences. And what that means is an experience where you went from down in the dumps. And again, it doesn't have to be drastic, doesn't have to be dramatic, but you're just at a lower point in your life. And then you got yourself even 1% better. Because this is what trips everyone up. They think they have to have this rags to riches story. You don't. You have to be one step ahead. One step. And 9 times out of 10, you guys are like 10 steps ahead, but you think you're like you haven't even gotten there. So I want you to really go through those transformational experiences because we've all had them, regardless of how old you are, we've all had them. And then I want you to walk away again, get your fresh air. When you come back, I want you to write out a list of riffs. And what a riff is something that you could talk about, no sweat off your back. You and I are meeting for the first time. We're sitting down. What could you talk to me about? No problem. And before you go judging this, I want to tell you a quick story. There was a girl that I worked with, and she came from a tough upbringing. Her house was very chaotic, very noisy, mess everywhere, not a good childhood. And as she got older and she got into her own space, she really liked organizing and cleaning, very into cleaning and organizing, keeping everything done. And so she was telling me her story and then her riffs. And she's like, I could talk to you all day about the importance of emptying your dishwasher, but that's so stupid. I said, it's actually not stupid at all, because if you look at that and then look at your story, it makes a ton of sense. And so long story short, after she was judging that, now what she does is she goes into women's home and she helps them organize so that they can keep their home nice and calm. And she is killing it. So before you sit down and judge something like emptying the dishwasher, write out 3 to 5 things that you could talk to me about, no sweat off your back. And then what I want you to do is I want you to compare your riffs to your transformational experiences and look for common themes. For hers, it was chaotic childhood, not feeling grounded, not feeling comfortable at home, to having my own home, organizing, feeling really comfortable. Now her niche is going into people's homes and making them feel very comfortable by getting organized, right? And
so cool.
Yep. So we all have that inside of us. So write out your story, highlight your transformational experiences, and go through your riffs. Your niche is sitting right there, waiting for it to come to life. It's been begging to come to life this whole time.
So this makes me think, I wasn't even planning on asking all these questions, and
I love it. Ask away.
Off the cuff, but it's got me thinking, what if somebody is like, okay, because that's got to probably be hard to come to. If I'm thinking of that client, I could sit here and talk about a dishwasher and all that. And it's like, where is there a business in this? Where is there something that I can serve within this? I used to, love babysitting. I don't know, all these little kids that I got stuck with because all my cousins would come over and I'd always be the one caring for all these kids. And I felt like a mama hen at the early age of 12 or something. And it's where is there a business in this? So, yes. I mean, I guess how can we find you know what I'm saying? How can you identify what is that I serve then?
Yeah. So the good news is most people have multiple transformational experiences that you can pick from, and 9.9 times out of 10, they're profitable, right? If you go on TikTok, there are a handful of women who are home cleaners. They have millions of followers. They're getting brand deals you wouldn't believe. They have cleaning recipe books, how to make cleaners for certain things in your home. They are making a killing. This is the beauty of the self-education industry, right? Forbes said by 2025, this coaching online self-education industry is going to be $325 billion industry.
That's insane.
There is just so much that's profitable out there because we have the tools to make it profitable. Now it comes down to, once we figure out those transformational experiences, making sure the alignment's there. How do we make that profitable, right? What does that look like? Does that look like you getting into the coaching space and being a mentor for these people? Does that look like you becoming an influencer and trying to land brand deals, right? TikTok, Instagram, all of these social media channels, just scroll TikTok for 5 minutes and see, like the woman, Maya with the twin babies. If you guys are on Maya Knight or so, I forget her last name, but she has twin babies and she is 24 years old, sharing her story of her as a single mother with twin baby girls. She has almost 8 million followers. She's set for the rest of her life. And so are those girls, right? It's like, we have all the tools right here. This is why I focus so much on alignment. You can make it work, because 9 times out of 10, the problem that you experience, somebody else is going to be experiencing.
Oh yeah.
How can we leverage your uniqueness? How can we leverage your expertise? How can we scale that into a thriving business, right? Not just any old business, but a thriving one that doesn't just mean financially. That means alignment, freedom-wise, aligning with your lifestyle goals and making an impact. The tools are right here. It's figuring out your niche. And it's what's sad is so many people just brush past their niche. I'm just going to be a business coach because I feel like I should. The more you turn outward, the more out of alignment you're going to feel. And that out of alignment is going to nip you right in the butt, and it's not going to be fun. And it's going to be when you least expect it. So I always tell a lot of my audience is new and aspiring entrepreneurs, nail this down in the beginning and know you're going to refine it as you get clients and as your business builds. You may pivot down the line. Give yourself that permission to pivot, but do not sleep on your niche. Don't do it.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. I could probably sit down and continue talking to you for like another 2 or 3 hours all about this topic because I love it. But then I'm sure we would casually start losing listeners because it'd be like, okay, this conversation has gone on forever.
Yes.
So Gabrielle, I want to wrap this up because not only have you given us so much value that I think a lot of us sitting here and listening, even myself, could be like, okay, I need to take all these golden nuggets, I need to run with them, and I need to see how I can apply them to my business. But not only that, I know I'm going to be on your podcast. You're also going to be jumping into my paid membership community and doing a private training there. So anybody that's listening, if you're not already listening to Gabrielle's podcast, and what is that called again?
The Gabrielle Laura Show.
Oh, there you go. There you go. If you're not already listening to our podcast, if you're not in my community, then jump on in because you can get a little bit closer to Gabrielle. And trust me, this will not be the first time she jumps in there. I'm going to have her back a couple times. Yes. She's going to be a regular, she's going to be a regular guest because
I'd love to.
I just love your energy and everything that you have and everything that you're doing. So outside of your podcast, where can people find you? Where can they hang out with you? Where can they work with you? Ultimately, if there's somebody that's struggling with their niche or they've never really, I guess, given this specific part of their business the attention that it needs, because once you connect and really identify it, trust me, it completely will transform the way that you're doing business and the way that your business is scaling. So how can people work with you? How can they find you?
Yes. So you can find me. I have a YouTube channel. It's Gabrielle Laura. The podcast, The Gabrielle Laura Show, and then Instagram. So that's at Gabrielle with 2 E's. Laura. I also have a blog, GabrielleLaura.com. Like I have a ton of free resources for you guys because I want you to win just as badly as you want to win. Like it is time for women to show up and make a huge impact. And I want to help you do that. And then if you need help figuring out your niche, I offer a niche clarity intensive. In 90 minutes, you and I are going to sit down. We're going to figure out your niche. Then you have 5 days of Voxer with me so that I can make sure that niche is aligned for you. Then I also have a group program, 12 weeks for new coaches who are looking to get their business off the ground. And then if you need deep help with sales, so I'm going to be speaking in Whitney's paid membership group on finding your aligned sales strategy. I offer a 3-month program to work with me so that we can get you in alignment, getting those sales and just selling in a way that feels good to you and really getting grounded in your niche.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This was so good. And like I said, we are probably going to have to come back and have another conversation.
I would love to.
This could go on for a while. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, Whitney.